In a land where cacti outnumber cell towers and the horizon stretches further than a fiber optic cable, it's time for Valley's Bits, Bytes and Banter, the podcast that looks a bit behind the scenes of a broadband provider, takes a big bite out of the tech world, and serves up a healthy dose of banter with people in our community. And now, without further ado, here's your host, Bob Dahlstrom.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Bob Dahlstrom, and along with my partner in crime, Ralph Score.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for another episode of Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. And I appreciate you downloading this episode and listening to it. And give our other episodes a listen as well. They're all excellent. Excellent. You know, we could be a little partial on that, but they are. It's fascinating information on those. All the guests are great.
I learn something new every time.
I do too. We learn something. We have a great time doing it. The guests all seem to enjoy doing it and sharing what they've got going on and learning more about them. And also talking a little bit about the tech world, which is kind of what we do here at the top of the show.
Yeah.
As we talk a little bit about what's going on in our arena.
Right. And I know right now we're doing a big expansion over in Columbus. That's one of the big things we got going on right now.
Yeah, our fiber, we're upgrading the entire town.
Yeah.
Village, I think officially is what it is,
and
Columbus.
Plus some of the outlying areas, too, are included in it. Too. I think it's like 5 areas total. What is there, 622 or 800? I forget how many houses we're hitting.
622 something.
622
right.
facilities is what we're going to hit.
A lot of homes within the village and in the area we're going to be upgrading. And, you know, through the funding that's been available to us as a broadband provider and to bring the fiber optic network to almost all of our area eventually. Bringing it to Columbus is very exciting.
Yeah, and that was specifically a New Mexico state grant, and we did a certain amount of matching funding on that as well. So
yeah, all these are. Not many people may realize that, but there is an element of matching funds with these grants where you get. But these grants are what make these projects possible.
And you don't always get the money immediately either.
Right.
You know, sometimes you have to go out, you have to put the investment in, do the build, and then you get reimbursed on that. You know, that's how the RDOF funds and all that work as far as that.
Well, and a lot of our areas right now are experiencing that, right? Because you go to our page, vtc.net/fiber, and we always talk about, here are the communities we're going to be upgrading next. And you'll see, we're doing it this quarter, and then all of a sudden, we're doing it next quarter. And, and a lot of that has to do with the funding and contractors. All that's waiting on funding.
Also the permits and rights of way and that kind of stuff. When you're dealing with highway departments and that kind of stuff, you know, sometimes you hit a lot of... You hit roadblocks, right?
And you can always tune in here, right, to learn more about what's going on and updates of the projects, because these projects are happening. Like you said, including the Columbus one is going full bore right now. No pun intended.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to be going down there pretty soon and getting some drone footage of the guys doing stuff and finishing some stuff out. So it's real exciting, though.
It is. It's awesome. We're very excited about that and bringing that technology to the area.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, we've talked a lot about cybersecurity recently, and that is something we constantly hit on because it's very important.
It is, especially in our arena.
Oh, totally. And a couple things going on. FCC recently issued an initial determination order against a company called VeriWave, and it accuses them of originating spam tax robocalls, and these calls attempt to gain targets' personal information under the guise of a national tax relief program. So they've actually put on notice. They've sent out stuff to the connectivity, if you will, that they can block these calls or block these messages.
Right.
And if they don't, they're going to get hit with big fines. So it's just something going on. It said that I think what they say here, 15.8 million spam calls use that approach over a 3-month period of time. So
that's incredible.
A lot of people getting hit with that, and it's all robo stuff. So it just starts dialing numbers.
Minimal effort on the side of the bad actors. They just have to create it and let the auto thing do its part.
And if you ever see one coming in, let your phone ring, and if it goes off after 2, then you know what? It's probably a robocall because they're not going to waste their time on it.
Or if you, for some reason, still use voicemail, if you have an answering machine, what have you, or your voicemail on your phone, they're going to hang up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as it starts picking up.
Exactly. So that's one of the things. And another one I want to touch on, and this is one that hit me recently, and this is a new LinkedIn thing that's going on. Everybody in the professional world, your LinkedIn profile is pretty important.
You've been talking about this a little bit, and you're right. It's usually in the personal side of your social media platforms, but now you're talking the work side, professional side.
Yeah, I recently got hit by a couple of them that approached me. Instead of asking me for a connection or something like that, what they did was actually they messaged me on there, and they talked about, hey, we came across your profile, and we really like your qualifications, and we're going to be starting this new venture down the line, whether it's for me, it's media, and for someone else it might be engineering or something. And we'd really like to maybe get you involved as an advisor or maybe even a partner in it, right? And then all of a sudden you find themselves where they're giving you this thing, well, I'm having problems with my LinkedIn account. Can we talk over here? Right. And they want to direct you to Telegram or WhatsApp or Google Chat or something.
They slowly start pulling you away from the platform they used to get your attention.
Exactly. And their bona fides look really great on LinkedIn when you look at their profile, but they won't have a picture on there. That's one thing that's a telling sign right there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But and so they'll get you into a conversation for a couple of days about this venture, and it sounds really good and everything. And then they slowly start talking about the investment model they're using to fund it. And they want to bring you in. And they talk about, and they all have the same mechanism where we have a team of expert analysts, and they know just how to pull the trigger for micro trades on gold futures or crypto or something like that. They want you involved in the investment, and then what they're going to do is say, well, you really need to get in big if you want to be a part of this. We want you to take out a $50,000 or $100,000 loan is what they're aiming for.
Right.
And they'll wipe you clean if you do that. So just be really aware of that. That is something that's been going on.
Something to keep just in a general term, because they sound like they know what they're talking about. They use the right terms. They really kind of reach out and try to hit your strengths and what you think you might be interested in. But if people are reaching out to you and asking you for money, that should be a major red flag for that kind of thing.
And they'll even tell you, well, we have...
Especially you didn't ask for it.
Well, they'll even tell you, it's like, well, we have Blackstone behind us and that kind of stuff, big private equity firms. And it's like, well, okay, well, then you got the money to do this. You don't need me. That's my thing about it. And my thing is like, I don't care where you get the money to do this. It's like, if you're really serious about doing this, and you try to steer them with what your expertise is, and they're not really, you can tell because they're not really paying attention to what you're writing, when you go back and forth. So anyway, that's something to be aware of.
Yeah, that's very something to be. Data breaches too, a lot going on. But I think that's something we can talk about in the next episode, maybe another episode about data breaches and gives people some tips on that.
Yeah, definitely. So you ready for some spurious facts of the day?
I am always ready for spurious facts of the day, Ralph.
These are some I didn't know. Now, Arizona, right? We're in Arizona, desert landscape, gets really hot. It's real important to hydrate, right? And Gayle, we're going to bring you in on this one too. So, did you know?
Our guest here today.
Did you know that if you drink too much 100% pure water, it'll kill you? Because it will leach all the vital minerals out of your body.
You will overhydrate.
I actually did know that.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that you did that.
No. No. That was used in an episode of NCIS.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
See, I should have known that because I binge NCIS all the time.
Right there. Yeah. I like that.
So, okay, here's another one. Okay, do you know what the deadliest animal in the United Kingdom is?
In the United Kingdom?
Yeah.
No.
Cows. I don't know if it's the methane or whether it's they get in the road, and kind of like the elk in Pennsylvania.
It's like those memes you see where it says something to the effect of, and I'll say a cow. It's very unlikely a cow will kill you, but it's never zero. The chances.
Now here's a really interesting. This is science one. Of course, we've been Shark Week's a big thing, but we don't talk much about octopus, right? Did you know that they have a brain in each one of their tentacles? And that's why they're so good at the dexterity. And they also have a main one in their body, and they have 3 hearts as well. So that's,
Now that I knew.
Yeah, that's
I
one
did not know
I've
multiple brains in their tentacles.
But,
I did not know that.
They always talk about how smart octopuses are and how they figure out things and all that. So, the fact that they've got the dexterity and everything is pretty important. So, anyway.
That's pretty interesting. They need to do an octopus week. What you're saying on Discovery?
I think so.
Shark Week, follow
there's
Shark
actually
Week.
I think there's a special on my
Octopi
the
Week.
Octopus My Teacher or something like that was one. It was a Netflix show that was on. It was pretty good. So
that's pretty interesting.
Now here's one. Yeah, you guys like ice cream, Gayle? You can ice cream?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who are you talking to here?
How about Haagen-Dazs? You like Haagen-Dazs?
Haagen-Dazs is pretty good.
Did you know that you probably think it's from Europe, right? Nope, it's from the Bronx. It was founded by a Polish-Jewish couple, Ruben and Rose Metis of Bronx, New York. Haagen-Dazs is really gibberish. It said the couple made this up because they thought a foreign-sounding name would make their ice cream sell better, and they went with a Danish-sounding name because of Denmark's actions to save Jewish people during World War II. I thought that was just fascinating.
Well, they're not wrong. That actually worked.
Yeah, it works. Haagen-Dazs. Haagen-Dazs.
There's ice cream and then there's Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah. So anyway, and that is the spurious facts of the day, and we better get out of here.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that, Ralph. I'm thinking about octopi now. There's the plural. So as we go into break, think about that, guys. We'll be right back with our special guest in just a moment. Stick around.
Valley Telecom Internet keeps you connected at the speed of life. Our fiber optic network provides fast speeds with unlimited data, whether you're gaming, streaming, or downloading your favorite podcasts. To find out what speeds are available in your area, give us a call at 800-421-5711 or go to vtc.net. Life moves pretty fast, and so should your internet. So get connected with Valley Telecom. And don't forget to download the latest episodes of Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. I'm your co-host, Bob Dahlstrom, along with Ralph Score, my partner in crime. Thanks for tuning in. And if this is your first episode listening to us, welcome. We appreciate you tuning in. And you can find all your favorite episodes and all of our episodes wherever you find your podcasts, including on Apple, iHeart, Spotify. We are hosted on podbean.com. And any of those platforms, you can search Valley's Bits, '(S) on the Valleys, to make it easier to find. And there we are. And download them and review them. And
plus YouTube and on our website.
Oh, yeah. And on vtc.net/blog. All of our episodes are there. And as I've mentioned before, we keep them a fairly, you can easily to digest in one episode at a time. Easy. 30 to 40 minutes, you can do it. And we always try to feature fascinating guests. And I think we've been really good at doing that so far. And today is no exception.
That is
to our special guest today. Now, she was born in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota, by the way.
Did you?
I did. I moved all over the place, but born in Detroit. Raised in Minnesota, but that's not about me. And you moved to Phoenix when you were young, and you loved to ice skate. I know you graduated from ASU. You got a PhD there.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken. So I may have to call you doctor.
Or not.
Or not. Or not. You moved to Willcox about 25 years ago. You've been heavily involved, you and your husband, in the theater and arts scene. You guys are very much responsible for revitalizing that and helping it to grow, I think, and to expand. And that's been a big, important role. Another nonprofit, I'm just barely scratching the surface of our guest. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her in here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Gayle Berry. Gayle, how are you?
I'm good, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
We were thrilled to have you on. We've been trying to make this happen for a little while now. I know Ralph and I have been itching to have you on to talk. Because anything to do, we try to get involved in the communities as much as we can. Valley does, and things like the Wham Fest, and we talked about the Red Carpet Shindig and Arizona Gives Day. We talked about the telethon and other things you have going on, and so much as that is tied to helping the theater and arts community in our area, and you play a part in all of that.
Well, in a small community, the cultural activities are different than in a big urban area. If you're in an urban area, you can have separate things for music and dance and art and so forth. In a small community, that just doesn't work. So we're kind of a one-stop shop. Sometimes we've called ourselves the Swiss Army knife because we do a lot of different things. We have a big summer program for kids, and we think that's just as important to have summer activities for adults. So we're finding that a lot of our programs that have, say, kids from 10 and up and adults both like the interaction with the different ages. It gives it a different quality.
Yeah, because you guys are more than just movies. You guys have the Studio 128, and you have the Palace and all that over there. I know we do our film festival at the Palace.
Yes, and we're going to have to start getting next year's planned again.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's never ending, right?
Yes, correct. And as you said, we do movies. As a matter of fact, tonight, I know this is a little bit of a plug, but we're starting the Horizon movie with Kevin Costner.
Ooh, part one.
Part one.
Ooh, that's fantastic.
And he took out a second mortgage on his Malibu property to finance that out of his own pocket.
Oh my!
And that's one of the things also, just
his accountant was really upset.
Oh, I can imagine. But he seems like one of those guys you talk to him is like once he's made up his mind. It's happening. But you mentioned that about Horizon playing here tonight. That's one of the great things about you have 2 screens, get first run movies many times the weekend they're released, on release weekend, which is pretty impressive. That's not easy to do in a small community.
You're absolutely right. A small community, but a small theater besides that with only 2 screens. So it's a continual juggling act. Gary Clement, our theater director, says it's kind of like playing 3-dimensional Tetris to schedule things.
I can only imagine.
I thought you were going to say 3-dimensional Russian roulette.
No, thank you. I'll pass on that one. But, I mean, to make those relationships, and like you said, it's a small theater. They're looking for box office, so they really want a big draw for the movie. So I think sometimes we take that for granted, the fact that we can get that in a community like Willcox.
Yeah, and it really is kind of remarkable because when about 10, 12 years ago now, when the movie industry changed from film to digital, that was very expensive to do, and many, many, many small theaters in small towns across the country closed forever.
Just very unfortunate.
And it was a tremendous loss for all of those communities.
Well, you had the digital conversion, plus you had the pandemic. That really, really hurt the industry. And I mean, it's still just now barely getting its feet back.
Yes, and it's changed the industry too. And I don't think the fallout's going to fall out for another 3 years.
Yeah, you still feel it.
And at the end of the pandemic, then there was the writer's strike, and that affected things.
And then the actor's strike.
That just extends it that much longer. So now, even very impressive.
So now, Gayle, I understand there's a story about why you guys finally made the decision to pull the trigger on going digital. Something about a film platter that let go in one of the screenings.
Oh, really?
It wasn't the platter itself. The platter was fine, but basically we were running 35 millimeter film, and none of us really had much experience with it. They'd given us a 30-minute instruction on how to do it. And the film doesn't run off the reels, it runs off platters. So you have to splice a number of reels together and put it on a platter. And when you put it on the platter, we didn't realize that the tension of the film mattered. So as it was started to play, it literally popped up. I don't know how to describe it. You have like a 3-foot...
You kind of spring up out of the middle?
Yeah. And if you can picture a fishing line that has snarled, in a cast, and you just get this mess. That's what it was.
Man.
It was awful. It took us like 4 hours to untangle it.
Oh my goodness. That's a definite, you know what? Digital's sounding pretty good right about now.
Digital is wonderful.
Yeah. I love that. And the theater, it's kind of, I guess, the cornerstone of the district, but you guys have so many other things you've added to it. Like Ralph mentioned Studio 128, the other projects and art programs you guys do with the communities and the schools, right? You partner with the schools as well.
Correct, yeah. Schools in outlying areas, too. We're working with Bowie now. They have a new community association out there. We're working with them and the library out there. So it's hard for folks from the outlying communities to get into town for a lot of activities.
Sure. Yeah, it would be very difficult, especially in the rural communities like we are. We're a little spread out. Even Bowie, which is fairly close, that's still a 20, 25-minute drive.
Absolutely. And for things that take place in the evening, like guest artist performances, it's dark when you go home and there's critters on the road.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I myself hit a javelina once, which was no fun.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're pretty solid animals.
So now you guys have a pretty good expansion program going on right now, right, Gayle?
We do. We're calling it the Center of Art and Heritage, and it's actually going to be built on a vacant portion of the lots behind Studio 128 and the Palace. And that will give us a lot more space for doing the studio work that we're doing now in 128 and the Palace, and more suited for doing the kinds of studio thing than those historic buildings are. It will also give us a third auditorium that we can use for movies or performances or whatever. And then in the Palace and the Studio 128, we will be doing the heritage part of what we call the Center of Art and Heritage. And we have some very cool things going on there. One of them is what I call School Days, but its official name is Willcox Heritage Pathways. And we are interviewing people who graduated from Willcox High in the 1950s, actually as panels. We want to create a picture of what it was like in the 1950s to live in Willcox and be in Willcox. And we've done it as panels with 2, 3, 4 people. And what we are thinking of doing next is bringing current high school students to interact with the folks from the 1950s.
That would be very cool. What a great contrast that would be in conversations that could happen.
Just things like phones. Okay,
right.
In the 1950s, they told me that the phone service there were not numbers. You couldn't call somebody with a number. You couldn't even talk to the operator and give a number. It was who you wanted to talk to.
Right. Kind of like Mayberry, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Talk to the operator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas today, kids have phones 100% of the time. So just a very different environment. Yeah. So rather than a museum with a black desk telephone sitting there and people oohing and eyeing, you can actually hear people describe what it was like. One lady said, I needed to call my mom, so I got the operator and said that I need to call home. And she says, "Oh, honey, your mom's not home right now. I'll connect you over to wherever she is."
That's the definition of small community right there,
talk
regardless.
about knowing the people around you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a wonderful program.
We are very excited about
And you guys are getting close, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I hesitate to say this because I know it's going to jinx it, but
we've been there.
We know that. We know all
we
about
understand that.
We're really hoping that the first construction activity will start in August.
Wow.
So if everything still stays lined up and no
Right.
other hiccups, no other bumps in the road.
So actually,
Correct.
about the time just before, well, this is going to be airing pretty soon. So about the time this is airing, hopefully we'll be over there maybe getting some drone footage.
Oh,
you guys
that'd be
doing it.
great.
So,
That would be very cool. Yeah.
So what about funding for something like this, Gayle? What are you guys doing on the funding end?
Oh, well, that's a continual challenge. This particular project is sufficiently large that we were fortunate to get a grant through the U.S. Department of Commerce, the Economic Development Agency. I've learned all kinds of new acronyms and stuff.
We love our acronyms.
To cover the bulk of it, but we do have a 20% match for the construction. So we have most of that, but we are still seeking that. And in the grant world, capital funding is rare. It is the very hardest type of funding to get. Most grant organizations and foundations prefer to fund projects and activities rather than capital. So, but the community has been and is very generous. So we are continuing to try and make up the difference that we need.
Well, community support, I mean, obviously is so important in a small community. And this is all nonprofit, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, and even the theater.
Yeah, yes, the entire complex
which is very rare
nonprofit. Yeah.
for a movie theater to be nonprofit, owned by nonprofit.
And I will mention, because occasionally there's confusion, that nonprofit doesn't mean that the tooth fairy brings money and
magically shows up.
You have to have enough money to cover the operating costs and so forth. It just means that all of any surplus goes back into the organization. It does not go into an owner's profit.
Right. Yeah, that's a good distinction to make on that. So we're talking about the theater. Also, these new plans include the movie theater coming up. So what does that actually entail for the movie theater coming up with this new project, the new expansion and everything? Is it going to be totally redone? Is it just going to be connected to the Heritage Center? I mean, I'm just kind of curious on that.
Yes, it won't be totally redone, but there will be a connected. So it will be one complex that all the new construction, the movie theater, Studio 128, and the Palace will all be one integrated complex.
That'll be fantastic to have that one center in that location like that. One entrance, everybody come in. And if you guys don't know where it is, it's on Railroad Avenue, right across from Railroad Park, where everybody stops to see the Rex Allen statue. And the museum is right there. And the movie theater, of course, you can't miss it. It's right there. What a fantastic project. Anything else like that, projects like that you're working on that we want to talk about coming up?
I'd like to talk a little bit about our summer program in our Engineering Technology Institute.
We're going to do just that after the break. Everybody stick around.
Join Bob Dahlstrom and Ralph Score right here as they provide a look behind the curtain of a broadband provider on Valley Telecom's new podcast, Bits, Bytes, and Banter. In every episode, they will take a bite out of the tech world and provide a healthy dose of banter with people in our community. Plus, they'll share funny stories and a bit about what is going on in their worlds. Look for Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. I'm your host, Bob Dahlstrom, along with my partner in crime, Ralph Score. And today's guest is Gayle Berry. And Gayle, we had to cut it off for the break right before that, but you said there were some other things you did want to talk about.
Yeah, we have a very active summer program that really covers what we use the idea of creativity as covering not just art, but it can be engineering. Engineering is a very creative profession. So we have summer programs covering all of those kinds of things. And this year, for the first time, we did a 2-week, what we called an Engineering Technology Institute. And we had 10 students attend that. We had, I believe it was 9 local organizations who either came in and brought things to the students, or the students visited their actual locations to see kind of all the variety and the breadth of things that engineering and tech can encompass.
And we got to be one of those.
You
right,
did.
Ralph was there.
You did.
And talked about podcasting.
Well, we had Luke Shaver and the guys from the network. They were doing a hands-on fiber splicing exercise,
which is really interesting.
Yeah, and then we built out a podcast studio, and the kids had a great time. So
that's a lot of fun. Just a couple of examples of projects.
Right, and it in kind of surveying and talking to the students afterwards, those of them that were kind of interested in that area, technology, really kind of focused in on what attracted them the most. So they just kind of were able to narrow their focus for the future. Some of the others who were just there because they were kind of interested became more comfortable with the idea that technology was something that could be in their future as well. So we think it was a great success. It was 2 weeks of, wow, there's a lot going on.
It's so diverse. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys had a whiteboard up in there that was its own form of Tetris going on.
Yeah.
This means this, if this, then that, right? All that stuff.
Pretty much.
And I know that you, like I said, just as another example, we could talk for hours about the projects and the things you guys have brought here for the community. Recently, you also did one. I say recently, when you get older, things it's like recently, like yesterday, maybe 3 years ago. But you guys had a touring exhibit of the Guinness World Records, the science behind it, in.
We did, yeah. And that was in cooperation with the Arizona Science Center out of Phoenix. And that was just fun. You could actually test your own skills on various of the world record kinds of things, like how many drum beats you can do in X period of time and that sort of thing. And we had, I can't remember exactly, but something like 18 or 20 school classes that came and visited everything from elementary school to some of the special needs classes in the high schools.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's phenomenal to include all aspects. That's awesome. And obviously, we talked about fundraising is a big part of this that makes happen. Do you have any upcoming events?
We do. We have our red carpet shindig coming up. It will be November 2nd this year.
Put it on your calendars.
Yep. as always, it will be not just your usual rubber chicken type of event, but full of surprises and fun, and you'll get to see some of your fellow Willcox residents in guises that you might never have imagined them in.
Or may never want to see again.
This is true.
One thing's for sure, you will never be able to unsee it. Come have a good time, right? And then when is that again? November 2nd?
November 2nd.
Are you doing that at the Elks again?
Correct.
You are, okay.
Are you selling tickets for?
We will be shortly.
Okay, so where can people find information on
our
that?
website, willcoxtheater.com.
All right, so you got to make sure you guys be prepared for that. And that's just one example, but that's such a fun event and well attended by the community. They have a great time.
So, Bob, don't you have a question of the day for Gayle?
You know, I do, Gayle. One of the things we like to do to our guests is we bring these random
do to our guests.
Do with our guests. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. We like to have fun with our guests, Gayle, and one of the things we like to do is question of the day. So we have a random question we'd like to ask you. There's no right or wrong answer, instead of what other people say. And so you don't know what the question is.
I do not.
But you get to choose it, and this is how. You have to choose a number between 1 and 9, and that's the question corresponding to that number that we'll read you. So what would you like? Between 1 and 9?
8.
Question number 8 for you, Gayle. Where would you land if you could be a fly on the wall? Literal fly on the wall. You wanted to hang out somewhere. See, I told you these questions are random and nothing to do with anything else we talked about here on the podcast today.
Wow. All of the answers that come to my mind aren't things I'm going to actually say.
If you wanted to that's something I really wanted to know about or wanted to be involved in or hear the background to that or something, where would you like to land?
Can I time travel?
Absolutely. There's no other, whatever you think the answer should be. That was very abstract.
Yeah.
I know.
I would think something, I'm kind of a World War II buff, so something in the planning for or just before D-Day in the strategy sessions there.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be so fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was going to say,
can you imagine that?
I was going to say Hitler's bunker, because
just to annoy him, buzz around him. What are you going to do there?
Something like that. Yeah,
that would be fascinating. I think that's a great answer. See, there's no right or wrong answers in this, Gayle. It's always fascinating where people take it, where they wanted to go with it, and that's one of the reasons behind that question, right? I guess I should have said where and when.
Yeah,
but I love that idea of being there for the planning of D-Day to hear how that came about. I like that. That's a good answer. I like that a lot. All right. So real quick, I do want to ask you something. You really can ice skate?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Like I said, I talked about how you were born in Minnesota. I grew up, basically was raised in Minnesota. I was born in Detroit. But I never could ice skate. My ankles wouldn't listen to me. I looked like a baby deer. I looked like a little fawn out there walking around in ice skates. I could never do it.
Oh, no. My dad each winter would flood the yard. We had our own ice skating rink. And literally, I do not remember learning how to ice skate. I could always ice skate in my memory.
It just happens.
They just put them on your feet when you were a toddler and said, go.
I think so, yeah. I can remember learning to ride a bike, but not to ice skate.
We had the same thing. We had one of our houses, we had a portion of the yard that my dad had made a frame for. Mm-hmm. So in the winter, filled up with water, instant ice rink, and everybody had to go out and skate, apparently, but me. So all my sisters could skate. My mom and dad could skate. I just, for some reason, just know what you're good at, Gayle. That's what I say. Ralph, could you skate? Could you ice skate?
Oh, yeah. Actually, and it's funny because I grew up in the Phoenix area, and I remember my sister got me a pair of figure skates one Christmas, and then I had some buddies of mine who had hockey skates, and they said, this is what you got to have, buddy. You get your hockey skates. So I started playing hockey when I was in high school. People went, you played hockey in high school? And I said, sure. It's like, and I have the scars to prove it.
It was like basketball tournaments.
Yeah, in Phoenix at the Tower Plaza, at the Ice Palace at Tower Plaza. You used to play hockey.
That's great.
Skate 3 nights a week. Yeah.
That is great. Yeah. Well, I wish I could have a better story in ice skating. I don't. I never could. I love hockey. Love hockey. I mean, if you're born and raised in Minnesota, it's in your blood. But I played a lot of floor hockey. I did that and was a terror, I might add, playing floor hockey. But you put me on skates and Bob, just lay there. Just lay down, block some pucks as they come your way.
You could be the goal.
You could be the goal or the one we passed everybody as you're laying on the ground. Yeah. That was me, very, very much so. All my friends could skate circles around me.
So I got a question for you, Gayle. Now, in your personal interest, you mentioned medieval history. Do you like the anachronism thing where you put on armor and that and go fight?
No LARPing.
Do you test out weapons on Ron?
That's a thought, but no.
I would be a fly on that wall if I want to watch into that.
No, this is more armchair.
Okay.
Very cool. Like watching, learning.
Reading. There's extraordinary literature out there about medieval times, and it's really quite a time span too, from about roughly-ish 1000 to about 1450 is considered the medieval period.
Right. Lots of little sieges and wars going on throughout all that.
Oh yes, all the time.
When you don't know what you don't know, right? In that era, the struggles and how difficult it was to do anything. That's just the way it was. So that was norm. But going back and looking at it now, it's like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, just staying alive.
Yeah, just existing was such a big deal. And you like to go hiking and camping. Now together or either or?
No, both together, backpacking, camping out in wilderness areas and so forth.
Is there an area or a place you've gone that's like really sticks out in your mind as one of your favorites?
Probably the favorite was the Uinta Mountains in eastern Utah.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that like high desert or was it like
No,
much higher
it's
elevation?
Mountains. It's like Colorado type.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'd be so much fun. And I know in this area too, right? If you like to hike, you like to camp. I mean, you can find lots of places.
Plenty, yeah.
There's plenty to do around here. There is. And look, you're just so diverse, Gayle. You like to do Sudokus. Mm-hmm. I do too. I'm not good at them. But I will do Sudokus. Are you pretty good, pretty adept at finishing them?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's very nice. Ralph?
No. I'm a crossword guy.
You're a crossword guy. I'm a word scramble kind of guy. I can unscramble words.
I'm a brain scrambled guy.
There you go. Yes. And you like opera.
I love opera. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved opera. My dad had old 78 vinyl records opera, and I guess it just got going from there, and still love it.
It's in your blood now.
Yeah, both in-person recordings, whatever. I can't get enough.
Well, Gayle, if you wouldn't mind, could you sing some opera? Sing us out here.
I didn't say I could do it.
You weren't prepared for that. But on that note, guys, I think it's time for us to head out. Gayle Berry, thank you for being our guest today on the podcast.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed almost all of it.
Boy, we had a nickel for every time we heard that. Guys, I'm Bob Dahlstrom with Ralph Score, and thanks for tuning in to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. Talk to you soon.